Hey, so what you want to do is you want to create a brand new project. It could be under an organization or whichever organizations you're under. But what you want to do is first install all the repository. So here I am. I'm cloning my entire repository into the Cloud Shell, and Cloud Shell will have all the things you need to install it. So once you have it, we can quickly look at the structure of this folder. Let's just head in there first. Vibeflix audit is the name of the entire project, and then we can kind of show what we have so far. So as you can see, we have the entire project with all the everything you need from all the sources. So all the agent code is under agents. So you can see we have a lot of agents in here. So if you're interested in what's going on inside agents, you can head over. I try to keep all the agent code clean, meaning that I take out a lot of the maintains and a lot of things that should have been done in ADK, but that didn't get done. I moved it to the common libraries, so hiding away a lot of complexity, so your customer does not see that complexity. But if you actually want to see the complexities and how things are done, there is a common libraries. So if you want to head over to the common libraries, under the package, right? So everything under here is kind of inside the Vibeflix comments. So I kind of just take out all the common things that needs to be done, say A2A, or sometimes the handshake of getting all the tokens. I just hide them all here inside the library. So if you want to see how it's done, it's right here. And then what we have is a lot of documentations. And what I just skimmed through right here is the MCP servers. So in my workshop or inside the demos, I don't want you to go through the details of MCP server, because at this time people should be already familiar with MCP servers. So you don't want to dive into that. So during the installation, this will already be pre-installed for them during the workshop. And if you're doing the demo, everything's going to be pre-installed for you. So you don't have to worry about any of it. So once you have already everything downloaded, what you want to head over is what you need to do is kickstart the installation. Since I wasn't given the permission to actually run, to actually get a permission to test out in your kind of sales environment that's supposed to test out the test account. So what I did here is I'm hiding all of the complexities of the installation inside a cloud build. But because I'm also running this in a workshop, meaning that I need you to run it as an owner, so that's why I am asking you to actually grant a cloud build as an owner. So it will run as a permission of the owner, but also install everything. So as you can see, it just finished the queuing of my jobs, and then what you're gonna do over here is to come over to the dashboard of the cloud build or the histories. You can see now it starts building. So once this build kicks off, it is going to take about an hour to install. And while we wait for the deployment, let me walk you through the story and some of the key points of this Vibeflix demo. So this Vibeflix demo is kind of looking into a streaming platform. So what this streaming platform does is that it outsources its IP or its character to manufacturers, and then basically the manufacturers gets permission to actually manufacture the goods or merchandises that they can sell overseas. And they will provide license deals, and then they'll sign contracts. But the problem is there's a lot of underneath processing that needs to be done. Say that it needs to look at the branding and see if the actual merchandise that they're producing matches the branding. If it's too big, too small, not adult appropriate, not kids appropriate, and stuff like that needs to be kind of pre-reviewed by marketing and the branding department. And then you also wanted to have the finance team to look into the contracts and see if there are any regional limitations on things. Sometimes some of the manufacturer does have exclusive rights, so you cannot override that deal as well. And the other thing is you probably have legal to review all the contracts, and just a lot of things that needs to be done. And it's just a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of coordinations. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to actually help automate everything. But kudos to this company, they already have a lot of like pre-built in IT process already. So when you go into a much more mature customer, this is what you're going to see. They already have some type of business process or some type of business automation that has been done. They only have few key person reviewing the workflow, or they would have everything automated within their department, but they'll have somebody coordinating in between departments and stuff like that. So we're trying to use agents to help expedite or help automate the entire process without having too much human involvement into it. And then the problem is all these type of things they have tried to automate everything. Like a lot of people have, if you go into those mature companies, they already like automate everything they can, but a lot of the things that remain on humans critical thinking to actually make the decisions, that's the hard part. So we're trying to add that into the story. And the one of the very cool stuff that I also add into this demo is we know there's a lot of much less tech savvy companies or less tech savvy departments within the company, that a lot of their knowledges are kind of stays inside people's head or in a bunch of documentations. So we're trying to work with all these different levels of optimizations and automations. So this is what we're trying to kind of work for. And everything that we deploy so far needs to be secure. So that's the key ask and what we're trying to do for this entire demo. And then if you head down to the infrastructure of what we're trying to install first, and if you're interested, the setup steps are right here. So if you want to run a workshop, you can, but this is not a very hands-on workshop. This is just guiding people through the installation process. There's still a lot of explanation to do on the instructor front. But for this particular demo, what you're trying to do is we're trying to show everything that we use inside Google Cloud, right? Because if you're implementing a single like a agent system, you can't just like run an agent. It doesn't work that way, right? So you need databases to store all the data needed. You want to spin up a cloud run services that host the MCP server. You want to make sure you have the IAMs to figure out the identities and who has access to what. You want to have the artifact registry to store my Docker images, you know, how I would containerize my MCP servers. We want to make sure we have the tracing in place so we can see the progress, the observabilities. And for the PubSub, I'm using PubSub to kind of build an extra layer of observability for you. You get to see that later on in the demo itself. And then this is the kind of the very high level. So if you are running a workshop, say you're running a workshop so far, you'll see that I will have pre-installed all the MCP server for you, right? So as you can see, the MCP server is I use them to represent all the automated process that people has already built inside the companies, and they will be exposed. They will be exposing it as an API endpoints, or they will be exposing that as a functions, so the agent can connect to that. So the agent can actually kick off an automated process. Same here. So like each agent will have access to multiple MCP server or a single MCP server to represent the complexity of how a company would look like for when installing or implementing a agent or agentic system. And then like there are other things that I have pre-installed for this demo is the place where I want to talk about multi-model, because one thing that agents are very good at, or LMs are very good at, is processing images, that which were required by human before, but now they can actually do that, interpret for you. So that's why I needed some extra places to hold the images and the extra files that's needed. So that's why I have it right here. And then what I'm using here is I have a task store. We'll talk about that during the A2A section. And then we also have other data that's needed, like how do you run a system without data. So I'm kind of just putting everything in Firestore because I'm a bit lazy to implement another database. But normally you would have probably like Cloud SQL or other type of databases. And this is kind of the base if you are running a workshop. But if you're running a demo like what I just showed you before, everything on top of on this entire thing will, and then also like the artifact registry, they would hold all all the containers for everything that it needs. And then it's not like, but not the agent runtime. I don't know why they don't do it here, but and also the IAMs are setting for setting up all the service accounts for everything that's needed around here, and then we also implement agentic tracing, so all the metrics will be exported directly and automatically by the agent runtime or the agent engine, and also the metrics as well. And then we're also sending out extra signal using the pub sub, so we can kind of see things run automatically. We get more of an interaction. So that's kind of what we have so far. And before we dive into the actual the details of each part, let me show you how this actual demo works. So it looks like this build takes about an hour and 50 minutes. And if it's finished, you should be able to head over to Cloud Run, which is somewhere here. Where's my Cloud Run? Yes, and then if you head over to Service, you'll see there is a Vibeflix app. You want to click into this. This is the main site that kind of shows how everything works, right? So where you see a couple of the live console itself, the audit histories. So like right now there's nothing because this is a brand new refreshed environment. And then we also have databases. So if you want to see what's available in the database, it's going to show you everything. So it has a couple of vendors that's already in the app itself. So basically what we're talking about is all the vendors that are actually the approved manufacturers that can manufacture our merchandise. And then we have trademarks, right? Which are the trademarks. And then we also have exclusive contracts. So there are some exclusive contracts that we sign with people so that people cannot use them in the other regions. And there's other licensing contract currently that's empty, but you'll see new coming in. And then the rate cards, like looking at that, the royalty rates and all that kind of like stuff that we use to determine if this is a good contract that we want to sign. And there are other things we want to do with audit histories and all that kind of stuff. And this one is special for A2A task. I'll talk about a little bit later. So once you log into this, you want to hit refresh and it's going to connect to kind of check all the services at the back end and see if it works. And if it works, you'll see this pop-ups. So I have also, if you haven't dig into the story, you don't know the actual workflow. So I actually built like 4 exclusive workflow that you can work with. So I do have a happy path. So with this happy path, hopefully it will not need approval. So this one will just go through all 3 different agents, or actually 4 agents. And then the agent is going to go through all the validations, approvals, and make sure it works, right? So the timing of running this, you're gonna see it takes a while because there's a lot of things inside, and I'll walk you through them a little bit later. But as you can see, this is what I use the pop sub for, right? So I'm just kind of like emitting all the signals coming from different agents. As you can see, the orchestrator agent, that's kind of the main orchestrator orchestrating all the workflow to different departments, is now sending the task into like 3 other different agents. So the 3 different agents kind of represent 3 different departments. So like we saw the marketing actually went super fast because it was just checking the brandings and all that kind of stuff. And you can see the task has completed. And you can see that the agent actually has access to the MCP servers. This is like when you see it lights up, it means that it's actually executing things inside the MCP server. Sometimes it goes back to the agents, and then when you see lights up in the agents, you can see that the agent is actually running tools inside the agent itself. So we have several tools that's built into the system, so it kind of just runs through things. So if you are kind of showing that to people, you can kind of tell them like, hey, the tools can be built multiple places. Mostly want to have them controlled and centralized in a server like MCP servers, but sometimes you can build them inside your agent as well. Depends on your use case, right? So we're just kind of waiting for things to happen. It's gonna take some time because this is a very complex workflow, like I said, and I do have it iterate multiple times. And then that's why this is happening. You can see that the MCP server is actually busy working, and now it actually transferred to a different agent. So the way that I kind of have everything work together is that the orchestrator has access to 3 different departments, but only the vendor clearance agent has access to the legal agent. So to show you like how if I'm trying to call my legal agent directly from Orchestrator, it's not going to work. Only the vendor clearance agent has access to the legal agent. So it needs legal agent to actually get to work. It needs to go through the vendor. So this is just kind of showing how identity works and how I can kind of connect all the dots together. So you don't have to have a centralized place to access like all the agents. You can have them delegated and have them segmented in different places. This is kind of just showing it to run. And sometimes legal runs the most is the most time intensive one. I'll get to it a little bit later, but basically what I had is everything in here runs in reg, so it does require a lot of semantic search and mapping and loading a lot of skills to generate that legal documents. So as you can see, at first search for other old legal documents and it will generate like other licensing stuff along with it. So this is like how it works. And if everything runs perfectly well, you're gonna see like a report that generates back in the audit history. So let's just kind of wait for it to finish up. As you can see, it's very busy getting the contract signed and everything. So this is why I use PubSub, right? So all the signal emitted from the MCP server itself, it just connects to PubSub, and PubSub just sends signals back to the console so you can effectively seize everything live. Normally you don't get to see that in real life, but I thought it would be very cool to see how everything's connected. And this is running with the agent identities and agent registries and the gateways kind of in effect. And this demo can also run without that as well. So you can actually run a locally run version of it, but you can kind of see that later. So now you can see actually I have the legal agent has cleared the contract. It goes back to the vendor. The vendor is finalizing the whole contract and is now contacting the orchestrator. And now what happens now is it will send it to a UI renderer, right? So the UI renderer is a different agent that takes care of rendering the front end. So basically what I have here is A2UI. So my UI is not static. It's actually generating text field and input field based on the need itself, right? So everything is kind of dynamic. Normally you don't see that enterprise, but I think it'd be cool to kind of show off why do we need A2UI? Why do we need to make it dynamic? As you can see now, I have a full running cleared workflow, and this workflow just kind of clears through all three agents. You can see the final report right here, kind of just renders everything, and you can head over to the audit history, and you can also export it like what people do. Like you can export the contract to your manufacturers. So basically what that meant was, I have everything signed, right? So, and if you head back to the database, if you do a refresh, if you can look at the audit histories, you can see one audit histories has been added, and then you have one signed legal contract. So all these has been happening throughout the processes. Some of them are taken care by MCP server, some of them are taken care by the agent. We'll dig into the agent itself a little bit later, but so if you start a new flow, the new flow, there will be like flow that gets blocked, and there are new interesting ones. So like the human in the loop. So this one is human in the loop. This one is also human in the loop. It just depends on which one you want to do. Like basically what happens is this one will kind of generate a new vendor that's not in the database. So it's going to ask you for more information, and it's kind of showing a little bit of A2UI. And this one just kind of asks you to re-enter the digits, basically just kind of adjusting your deal prices, maybe like moving royalty a little bit higher. So the Vibeflix company gets more of a cut. So they will allow you to do that contract and stuff like that. So that's what it is. And I do have another use case, couple of things, just kind of taking people through, hey, what's used in which one and how they were connected. So here you have a view of like the app actually connects to two different agents. One is doing all the workflow, one is kind of in charge of the front end rendering. So as you can see, I'm not using one orchestrator. I'm actually connecting to two different, I'm breaking out that flow into two different segments. And then orchestrator is going to like three different agents, and then one connects to the legal license. So that's kind of what it does. And I also have introduced a little bit of agent identities and agent gateways. And it's always good to actually show how you view that inside the environment as well. So if you head over to the agent engine, once you head over to the agent engine, you can see that if you head over to the agent section of the platform, you can see I have the agent registry here. So inside agent registry, you can see I have registered all my agents in the registry so people can find them. You can see that the identity, you can see how to retrieve their identities, how do you contact them. So all of them are A2A compliant. And as you can see, the agent ID so people can find them. And this is kind of their endpoints of how to contact them and stuff like that inside the agent engine. And then I also have registered all my MCP servers. So this is going to list every server out there. So if you don't want to do that, you can kind of filter it by, let me see if I can filter it by my endpoints. Just call it Vibeflix. Because it's going to show like all the MCP server, even the one I supply from Google as well. So I'm just going to filter it, apply, and see if it's going to filter for me. Or maybe I can just no match. What if, all right, they're right here. So I need to update. It's a reset. It should be V. Okay, I don't know why the okay, so I don't know why, maybe it's not the location. Reset, filter, it says types to filter. Type to filter, yeah, I did. Vibeflix. All right, so for those of you who are kind of confused, it's right here. These are the three MCP server that I have added here, but I'm not sure why it's not filtering, but like, yeah, it's right here. And then there's other endpoints, but I'm not using any endpoint at this point. And then all my skills, and then because this one came out after I actually built the whole thing, so this is probably not going to be like useful for mine, but I'll try to see if I can add that back in. But all my skills are inside my repository, so it's not here. I'm not using it here. When I was developing it, this skill is nowhere to be seen. I don't have access to the roadmap, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I also have the gateway. So the gateway is right here. So the gateway is in charge of kind of making sure the identities are correct, and it's relaying the right traffic to the right place and kind of just stop the traffic if it doesn't have access to that. So there's an ingress and egress out of it. Here I'm just using the egress since I don't want to introduce another complexity of adding model armors. So basically what you can do with ingress is you can probably use a model armor attached to that to filter out all the attacks. But I feel like we don't need it here because we want to focus on the kind of the agent identity stuff, but feel free to kind of add it yourself. So you can add, so this is how I configured my agent identity. So as you can see, I set up my IAM services right here. So this is how I set it up. We'll go into the details of how to set up later. But here's the policies. So here are the policies of who can do what, who has access to do what. This is all here. So as you can see, this is how I set up my orchestrators. Then other than my orchestrators, I also need to have, other than the orchestrator allowing them to go to a different agent identity and accessing the agent registries, it also needs to access other GCP services, right? So there's two sets of policies I need to set here. And we can also see what's going on here is the topology. right now, I have no idea how to connect the MCP. I tried multiple ways, but it just doesn't work for me. I try to look at all the documentations, but I think this is pretty cool. So if you have, so you gotta have make sure you run the first happy path first, because that's how we have how we ran through all that stuff. But as you can see here, it actually shows you our like super cool like how our agent kind of connected, right? So if you don't have the view of what I had before here in the demo itself, like hold on here. So where did my demo go? Did I close it? Nah, it's right here. So if you don't have access to, remember that little diagram that I had on the right, you can see it here. So the topology actually kind of helps you visualize a lot of things, which is like super cool. And then if you head into the deployment, you get to see all the cool stuff. I think the most interesting one is the orchestrator because it connects to all the other agents. I love to kind of show people the topology here as well. Like you can see like how it connects to other stuff. So it's very similar to the other topology, but that one has all the views inside your agent platform, but this one has a view to orchestrator. So you can see the orchestrator has no idea the vendor clearance actually talks to the legal. So it only sees from what it can see is available. So that's super cool. What else? Yes, what you can also see is the telemetries, right? Telemetries are pretty important. So what I have here is you can head over to the tracing. So as you can see, if you remember, we just kicked off our like first session, right? So we do have a session right here. It ran for like 5 minutes. So you get to see all the traffics, right? So because this is our first point of contact from all the traffics. So you get to see all the really cool, like where it went, what happened to it, and kind of just see like dig into like how many. So as you can see, why is this very slow, because it went through a bunch of like agent like LM calls, because I have a bunch of skills inside, so it needs to go back and forth deciding what to do. But you can see also calls out to multiple tools from the MCP servers, and as you can see, it actually recovers from a lot of the problems of getting tasks and stuff like that. So that's my A2A connections and all that. So this is like a super cool stuff that you can see like a big show of how everything went. And then I know this was pretty hard to see. So you can also head over to the timeline part where you can see like how it kind of just went. So how long everything took. So it looks like generating content takes a lot longer. The other one just kind of talks to task flow. Storing the data into the task store, and all that kind of cool stuff, right? So this is just a very quick view of how everything works. And I think you can filter out some of that too from when I was playing with it, but feel free to kind of take a look at it and let me know if I'm missing anything at all. But yeah, so this is like the tracing part, which I found pretty cool. And if you see, I also use agent memories in this one. So as you can see, like you can see I have agent memories that I use to memorize all the status and all that, so I can recover from everything else around here as well. And right here, I'm also using memory bank to store my agent memories, right? So this is all right here. And these are all the sessions of each individual sessions that they can see as well, right? So just some of the stuff that I think is pretty cool, interesting to see. I think the MCP server was supposed to be here, but as you can see, I don't think this one's like implemented, so I don't know what's going on. But for our legal agent, it actually has access to a RAG engine. So the RAG actually is actually created by me. I have fed a bunch of empty files into it. So basically, I have a very small, very quick a RAG solutions right here, kind of just mimicking like the tribal knowledge part where all the information are stored from inside people's head, and like people's documentation scatters around and all that kind of stuff. I am not doing any evaluation whatsoever. I have, and my team has a bunch of like evaluation workshops that we do, so do feel free to check those out. So those are just a quick walkthrough of what I have in the workshop. And then if you head over to the website that I created. So this one just walks you through every single agent, right? So it walks you through the brand agents, the deal agents, the vendor agent, the orchestrator, the UI front end, and how it connects together, and a gateway. So this one is kind of combining like everything, like so basically, like if you are running a workshop, I strongly recommend you to ask people to connect to this one, because this one kind of gives people an interactive way of the storytelling. It also gives you like the way to set it up in a workshop way. If you fail, please, like if you test it and it doesn't work, please let me know. I can help you with that, and always report back to me. And then if you continue to the second branding part, so this one we want to talk about how we want to build an agent. So this is out of the 3 agents, this one is the simplest one. So this one I want to go ask people to think about what is deterministic and non-deterministics. So this is why I have a bunch of exercise asking people like what is deterministic, and what is non-deterministic and what is deterministic. Like when do you use LLMs? Because I think one thing that people mix up all the time is that they throw everything at the agents, and that you shouldn't do that, right? So I think this is a quick exercise of telling people. And the reason why I do that is because I want people to think about what you should put in the MCP server and what you should not put in the MCP server, right? So that's why we want to wrap all our deterministic workflow into our agents. And that's kind of how I think it is. And then for this marketing agent, what I was trying to do is I'm asking the MCP server to do a lot of the deterministic checking, like spelling check, checking if the category can be run, the category of the medium of where this is going to be printed, if it's in a allow list, and then like all the like checking the source against like approved source and all that kind of stuff, like very like branding stuff that I really don't understand. I was trying to chatting with like the LMs. It tells me like this is what the branding checks, but like this is all the deterministic steps that you do, and I just wrote them a bunch of like mock functions into my MCP. So if you head over to my MCP server, you can see like here under MCP server, this is all the code of MCP server, and the MCP branding server is right here. And then this is like, these are all the like tools, right? Like the allow list, this is all hard coded, don't worry about it. But this is like how it checks everything. And then after that, I have like a quick introduction of ADK. So because this is the first agent that we introduce people to, I want people to learn about what is ADK. So how I think about ADK, it's like the model itself. What is model? What is instructions? What is skills? And the tools, how do you connect to MCP server, the sub agents, right? So you can connect to like other agents, the workflow, the new ADK 2.0 onwards workflow, very similar to LangGraph. And then you have the output schema stuff where you can determine the schema that you can put in. And then we also have the memories and the sessions that we can control what's in the agents, right? So this is all being built into this workshop. So as an instructor, you want to teach people like, what is ADK? And you know what? Sometimes it's very overwhelming. So this is probably a better workshop for the architects, I would say. And then we're going to deploy that into agent runtimes. I normally run my stuff on Cloud Run because it feels a lot easier, but because I want to push agent platform this time, so I'm deploying everything into agent runtime, and because agent identity works with agent runtimes, so that's why I'm choosing agent runtime to run this one. So all my agents are deploying into agent runtimes. So now, as you can see, it's right here. So I'm deploying it right here, and then I have the other parts that's being needed are what's being needed is I have my images being stored into cloud storage. I have my agents deployed here. I have my MCP server deployed on Cloud Run because all the MCP servers deploy on Cloud Run and the data are in the Firestore, right? Just like teaching people what they are and where they are and what they're in. And then like just asking people like, how do you determine the result shape? And then like just making sure that people understand what they are, and then what is the images to model and all that kind of like they're the context inside the payload, right? So just answering all the basic questions of ADK. And then this is what the agent looks like. Like, see, if you look at the code itself, the first agent is all like the most simplest one you can ever see, right? So you can see this is the agent itself, very simple, a bunch of like descriptions, like instructions. It has access to all the tools from the MCP servers. But this is just me like checking extra stuff, so it doesn't fail. Just so like your demo will not fail, and all that kind of stuff. This is introducing callbacks. I don't know if you want to introduce callbacks right now here, but you can. And then like I think I introduced skills somewhere here. I think I did. Yeah, I did. So I introduced skills, and these are all the like what do you need to check, what kind of skills, and this is generated by LM, by the way. So like it just determines like what is a medium, what is approved medium, and all kind of stuff. And you need to actually like call the MCP server to do the approval flow. That's basically what this skill says. Not much, but basically that's what you have, and then you have the next one. So right, so that's the first agent that we have so far. I'm gonna run another one. Why don't we do that? So I'll just kick off another one. So that's the first agent that we have run. And then we want to head over to the second agent, and I feel like I'm just talking to myself at this point. So basically the second agent is with dealing with pricings, and normally what happens is the manufacturer is going to propose a deal where you get like 10% cut of granting the licensing of this pricing, but we do have a card that says like what do we prefer. But normally what happens is when they have bigger manufacturing sizes, we often give them some slack, and then like this is like a part where does a lot of a negotiation. And before it was done by human, but now we want to delegate it to the agent to reason about it, because this is too much work for a human, of course, and we don't want this person to overworked. And now this is what the next agent is all about, right? So now I want to make sure that all the math and all the deterministic stuff, like looking up the rate card, determining how much royalty needs to pay, the base royalty need to play, the volume of the minimum volume that you need to provide, the advance you need to put in, all that kind of stuff was determined right here. So all these are being done inside this, and then you can see all the configurations are like if you want to run it as a workshop, this is the instruction. Actually I want to kind of talk about the instruction. So the instruction, the way I run the workshop here is I have them deploy the agents right away, because deploying into agent engine or agent runtime takes forever. It takes like 10 minutes, and I don't want my student to sit there for 10 minutes and kind of just look into the void. So that's why I designed this I kind of like a little play where I have them start up a ADK web UI, so they can play around with development, so they get a sense of how this is being developed. So basically you just run like the ADK web and then show them everything. I might do another recording of the video how to like actually run this workshop and kind of see if that works for me. And please like let me know what you think. And I can always adjust it and all that kind of stuff, but because there's a lot of things we need to cover, so I'm just trying to minimize the things I have to do. So I'm hiding a bunch of like complicated stuff, and I don't want the users or I don't want the customer to be scared off because of the complexity. So I'm hiding a lot of that inside my code as well. And then so now we want to talk about skills. What is skill and how do you use them, right? So this is the part where I talk about how do you actually introduce skill into ADK. So this is another part where I can kind of build my own skill into it. I can add my own instructions. So this is the skill. This is what the skill should look like. You remember when we talk about skills, there are some kind of like format that you need to follow, because like that's what Anthropic said. So like the metadata, you need to follow it, like some instructions. And then other than that, you also have access to like a bunch of other folders, like these folders, you can use them to put temporary data or reference data and all that kind of stuff, or running scripts if you want your agent to run scripts while processing it, right? So, and this is just a small test of like what should be in what, right? So like this is empty file, so it clearly is a reference. This is a step, so clearly is an instruction, right? So these are all the things you can kind of guide people through of like understanding what the skills are. And then we want to talk about loop engineering because it's been hot. And I don't know why we want to talk about it, because like we've been doing loop forever. But you can see like this is how it works, right? So the evaluation is actually a loop. It runs in a loop, right? Because I want to make sure that whatever I'm thinking, I actually went through a bunch of reconciliations before I make my final call of if this person is a good royalty, is paying a good royalty, if it's something that I need to negotiate again with the users, if I can kind of resolve this at all and stuff like that. So the resolver actually resolves from evaluating through the skills that I created. So it kind of just goes in loop until it figures out a good deal on its own, and then it will finalize the result. So this is just showing a little bit of the loop engineering here. So if you head over to the code of my agent, so here I have a little bit of a loop to reconcile. So this is kind of like just going through, make sure that it works. And this is how I introduce loop into the storage and everything. So like there's other ways in ADK you can do it. You can make it into a task node. So the task is to figure out things. But when the time was when I was writing, I didn't realize there's a task node. So this is another way of doing it. But anyway, there is a workshop that we created, does have task node. So reach out to me if you want to kind of look into that as well. But just to know, there's a bunch of different ways that we can create this loop phenomenon, whatever that people want to use. And then we want to start talking about A2A, because A2A, I think it's one of the most important things that we should be talking about, but that we're not talking enough about, right? So this is just when talking about like when should we have a sub agent and when should we not have a sub agent. So when should we separate into a different agent? So is this a single agent use case or this is the multi-agent use case? Helping people determine, because we don't want to like divide things into like into too many agents. I don't think that's the way you should do. You should always go for a single agent and then breaks it up until it makes sense. So that's why I kind of talk about it like split it when the job is split. It's basically split it like when you have a domain specifically that's not related, and then isolations. You don't want this agent to know other information about other agent. This is often comes from I don't want to share data to this specific agent because this specific agent doesn't live in my department and stuff like that. You would do that, and and then otherwise it's just and connecting the agents, you need to make sure that you're connecting them with code, not the you can actually make it dynamic, but I think there's going to be a lot of question marks between that because it's very undeterministic, and sometimes it goes like very weird behaviors. So there are like trade-offs if you want to do that as well. So you can see if this one is like read a mobile test, produce a medium, and call a deterministic. It feels like a single agent stuff, right? So you can decide if this is like a multi-agent or single agent use case, and just kind of ask users to help you and build that as well. And then we want to actually go into like the new structure of ADK, which is ADK graph, right? So ADK graph now does like node and edge, right? So this is a node. A node is the executional unit inside the agent, the graph, right? So it could be an agent. When we say an agent, it actually means a code that talks to LLMs. That's why I call them agents. And then a custom function, and then a tool. A tool is actually basically a custom functions, but I don't know why. It's a more fancy way of determining that, I guess. And then the way that we put them together is like that. So it calls an agent, the agent calls custom one, and the custom one fans out to one or two, and then it goes like function A and function B, and then function A and function B merges together, and then you can kind of verify it through this is like parameters and stuff like that. So that's how it kind of works. So very simple graph. And then you can kind of just build one out. So right here, we can say, all right, how do we get started? Well, start as an agent, right? So this is how we can kind of go through. And then agent talks to a custom one, right? So agent custom one. So you kind of just drag and drop and build your own like little super cool graph, right? So that is the deal pricing agent. This one is like pretty nice and easy in the case that introduce a lot of ideas like the graphs, it talks about the skills. It talks about why do you need multi-agents, right? So a little bit of everything because, oh, by the way, the reason why I have sub-agents but not talk about A2A is because I do have a sub-agent. So not all the agent needs to be standalone. So in this agent, I have like a root agent and I do have another agent right here. That's called resolver agent, pricing agents. So I have a bunch of agents that kind of does all the different type of stuff, and I don't want them to kind of talk to each other. I don't expose every data into every agent. So I have some filtering among the agents as well. So that's why you see I have multi-agents. That is deal pricing agent.